in cryptography and human rights. By 2006, I was working for the Department of Defense on a very similar project. The idea was to produce an identity card standard that could be used in Iraq and Afghanistan without differentially empowering bad actors. I led the sort of processes for the Ethereum launch. I basically held that part of the show together. And basically, there aren't very many experts in this stuff. This is a frontier. Nobody has deep expertise on a frontier. What I'm going to suggest is that we want a system that lets us make good decisions often enough that the weight of the good decisions outweighs the weight of the bad decisions. That what we're really looking for is a systemic function. The system as a whole functions, the system as a whole is profitable. We are always in a position where we've got enough good stuff going on that it covers whatever little problems we have when things don't work. And I'm going to suggest that the rational way of approaching this is that we need to design insurance models which allow us to take this kind of trust problem and manage it in an efficient, integrated, sensible way. Insurers are already people that know a ton about you. They know what you're worth, they know anything special that you own, they know where you live, and they've often got these data sets for years and years and years. Insurance is something which is relatively limitless. So right now, Visa is probably the biggest global sort of access point to the financial system that we have. And Visa is choked off by its inability to manage the identity problem. They can't get outside of really, basically the rich areas of the world because you just can't issue a Visa card to a homeless person in Bangladesh. So ideally, what we would like is a system that has global reach. Use the insurance paradigm to build something which allows you to get into every single corner of the world in principle. The technology and the finance and the regulation might stop you getting there today, but you want to be able to get there in the long run. This is particularly relevant for a Dutch audience because at the end of the day, you're a trading nation, right? You understand that a lot of the stuff that came in the past that made your ancestors wealthy came from places where they barely understood the culture, they just showed up and did business. And you could be custodians of a system that allows you to do that. There is no reason that a small country can't have global reach. This is one of the great advantages of the internet. Well, I think it has to be probabilistic, right? The law would like it to be that you, as the business, know exactly who you're dealing with, but in actual fact, the law knows that there is an error rate, and somehow there has to be a negotiation about taking that error rate from something that's pushed under the rug to saying, this is our identity compliance rate, is it high enough or not? This predictable risk, 0.5%, 1%, 2%, 4%, given that we've got systems that are in constant attack from fraud, let's figure out how to get the insurers to take up the slack. Visa only works because Visa insures every credit card transaction. You would not use Visa at all if every time somebody ripped you off, you lost the money that they'd taken. Visa is big enough and heavy enough that it generates enough extra transaction volume that it can just pay for the losses on the way. They're just using that to smooth out any little problems that occur. Oh, look, we lost a lot of money over there, just pad that out. And as a result, we use the Visa system as if it was completely reliable and bomb-proof. Our user experience of Visa is that Visa is perfect. Visa's experience of Visa is that they're running around like mad people just whacking problems with a mallet. But we never see that because our risks are insured. And so the system appears to be perfect to the people who matter, who are its customers. This is what we could do for identity. We could get a system that's 99.5% right. We could cover the remaining cracks with insurance, and then we could have a system which basically feels perfect because it's got a properly designed way of handling the gap between what the computer says and what the world actually did. If you want to manage identity on a blockchain because you want the ultra low transaction costs and the high security, my assertion is you're not going to be able to do that successfully without bringing insurers along with you. Claims are ideal for blockchain use, right? A claim is basically a contract. It's very unambiguous. It doesn't have much squishy stuff on it. It's a great thing to put on a blockchain where the ultra low transaction cost environment is a good fit for the actual object. The facts can be ambiguous, but the identity of the insurer and the amount of insurance being offered in the policy documents, all that stuff is cut and dried. So there's a really good possibility for having a regulated industry, which are these information insurers, and all that stuff is a good fit for the blockchain. We keep the actual facts off the blockchain as much as possible. Profiles, partly on a blockchain, all kinds of clever stuff about zero knowledge proof, ZK, snarks, all of this kind of stuff that the identity companies are working with, All of that stuff is a great idea. Exactly what model will win out probably depends on advanced mathematics. You take every little place where somebody's got a set of information about you, you ask them to turn that into an offer for a claim, you then buy as many of those claims as you need to get the job done on whatever thing it is you want to do that requires this kind of hard identity. What we're talking about is being able to monetize knowing stuff about people in a way that the people themselves control. I, as the customer, pay you for information about me in the form of an insurance product. That keeps the individual in control of the system as a whole because the individual is the payer. If we figure out a way of taking all the slack in these systems, all the imprecision, and selling it to people whose job it is to pick through it and fix it, you'll get a whole bunch of new technology from people that are very, very good at figuring out what is true, and this is socially good. So what we're talking about is basically figuring out how to build new industries who are in the job of doing information assurance, and to create those new industries, we have a market design, and that market design is really the challenge. If we can create a market which will allow these companies to exist, they'll come into existence and they'll solve our problem.